Welcome to the Wealth Conversation podcast. This podcast is for you if you believe that wealth is so much more than just money. At the Wealth Conversation, we believe that wealth encompasses our physical, spiritual, mental, social, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Tsitsi Mutiti, and I will be having conversations with financial experts and people just like you and me who are on the journey to building lasting generational wealth. If this resonates with you, then I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you get notifications of when our next episode will go live. For now, let's get into this week's conversation. Welcome to the Wealth Conversation podcast, and I'm so glad to have my guest Sandra here with us today. Sandra is an amazing woman. She's had a fantastic career to date, and it's still going on. She's worked across the TV industry, and she's also a coach. And Sandra, you've started up some networking events as well. So there's a lot that you've got in store for us, I'm sure. But first of all, before I ask you to introduce yourself, just to let the listeners know that today we're talking about toxic positivity. What is toxic positivity? Where does it show up in our lives? And everything in between. Welcome, Sandra, to the Wealth Conversation podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And congratulations to you. Love the studio, love the setup, and you are phenomenal as well. And happy Women's International Day. We should be saying that every week.
Yes.
Not just once a year, but we should be saying it every week.
Indeed.
So yeah. So what would you like to know?
Well, I would share with the listeners who Sandra is, what you do, and anything that you feel we definitely need to know about you.
Oh God, definitely. That's none of your business. No, I'm joking. My OnlyFans No, I'm joking. That's not what you need to know about me. So I am Sandra Addae, aka DA, the Millennial Coach. Mm-hmm. That's my podcast. I have worked across broadcasting for for 13 years of my career, and seven of those 13 years were spent in the Middle East. And I was in Dubai before Dubai was a thing.
Wow.
Anyway, that's a whole conversation on toxic positivity.
Another podcast episode, right?
But we'll include some of that. And so when I left broadcasting, I was actually pretty done. In the UK at the time, it was very heavily racist. There was not a lot of options for people that look like me to grow in the industry. And so when you try to apply for roles, you were always shut down. I wanted to be a presenter, so when you get the June Sarpongs or the Makitas, it's like they're very blessed in the sense that there was an opening that they took and they ran with it. So that was something that a lot of people probably don't know about me. And the other thing is I'm partially blind.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. Don't tell the DVLA, but a lot of people don't know that. But no, I have 20/20 in my eye, and it was a childhood trauma in terms of being at school and playing, and But aside from that, my thing, Oprah was always my coach.
Okay.
And Iyanla Vanzant. And I started following Iyanla Vanzant when I was 14. So that was 32 years ago. And read all her books, applied a lot of the knowledge. And I really was someone people came into contact with to get feedback and always ask my opinion. So when I changed careers in 2013, I really wanted to be a coach. And trust me, I have failed multiple times. In terms of doing programs, no one turns up,
Yeah.
You fail your way to success. And so moving into coaching and assessing and going back into the TV industry, but from a coaching perspective, it was much more satisfying. And then do more corporate and leadership and empowerment stuff. And I've done stuff with the FCA. I've worked with ITV. I've worked with Channel 4. I've, worked with different universities. I've traveled the country. It's been such an interesting experience. And I will always say to people, you have got to lean into your strengths in order to rise to the position that you deserve to be in. You can't keep going in the same direction, expecting new results, thinking the same way, expecting, if you want change in your life, it's not easy and it's very painful and you will be in tears. So when we talk about toxic positivity, which we're going to get into, I really do encourage your viewers and your listeners to be very honest with themselves, and also if you are trying to get into a new industry, you might not be very good in the beginning, but keep working on yourself because you will grow.
I love that. Now, let's get into the topic of toxic positivity because there's so many angles to this.
Have we got time?
And I know I'm looking at, I don't know if we've got enough time. But Sandra, what would you say toxic positivity is?
I would say toxic positivity is when we gaslight ourselves.
Okay.
We are consistent gaslighters. And I think the social media element that has been infecting our lives has brought so many uneducated people talking about things where it's like the blind leading the blind. So I'm going to listen to someone who has never studied the theory, understanding also the damage that they can potentially be doing in terms of what they're selling. And when you are living in a space of toxic positivity, what my experience is that you're using a lot of the metaphors, the experiences, and the terminologies that we are now infused with, like narcissism. You might just say one thing, all of a sudden you're a narcissist. What kind of nonsense is that? Like, how are we going from not actually learning and understanding that person to creating a persona that actually doesn't exist?
Yeah.
So we're gaslighting ourselves, believing that we are now self-prescribing terminology that we don't actually understand how to actually embed it in a sentence that creates a meaning of substance and truth.
Because you hear it just being said over and over again. And when you hear it being said or see it being said, if you're looking on your phone, your mind interprets it in a certain way, and maybe that was not the intention. But if we just dial back a little bit, when you say gaslighting, for those who don't really understand what gaslighting is, could you just explain what that is?
So gaslighting is a form of positive self-talk in your negative state of mind.
Okay.
So if, for example, and I'm going to use body positivity, which I think is a load of nonsense.
Okay.
Now, everybody has options in this world. We have the same amount of time in each day. All of us have 24 hours, whether you're in Australia, you're in the Caribbean, you're in South America. What you choose to feed your body is what will either give you fuel or sickness or health. So we now are in the information era. We now know what is killing us. We are very aware of the impact of sugar. We're very aware of diabetes. We're very aware of how the impact of carbohydrates, the level of consumption that actually turns into glucose. And if you are someone who doesn't move, what does that do to your body? So when we talk about toxic positivity, and then we are severely obese, and then we're blaming somebody else for our decisions, that is toxic positivity. When you are choosing to be reactive rather than responsive, you're blaming someone for how you behave. That's toxic positivity, because you're trying to justify bad choices, and there's no accountability in toxic positivity. It's, but you know what? Because this person did, and then everyone's like, and then this is another problem. If we even think about something called toxic masculinity, I'm going to use an example. So I've been around a group of guys at one point, and what I find is one would say something and everyone will be cheering that person on, and they are being incredibly disrespectful and offensive and talking about somebody in a way where they're expecting me to join in because I'm friends with them. Now, I'm a very objective thinker and an independent, critical thinker. So if you're saying something about, oh my God, I don't like this person because of, I'm like, is this your version of the truth, or have you adopted this through somebody else or a group that you're influenced by? Toxic positivity is usually the derivative of influences that you don't stop. It's controlling your life. Because imagine if everything that I see online, I'm wearing nothing but just about covering my areolas to feel relevant, because I'm watching people on, performing on the Grammys or whatever, doing the same thing. It doesn't mean that it's for me. Mm-hmm. Just because, this is when I talk about Dubai. Everyone's rushing, I'm going on holiday to Dubai. And after a while, I sit there, I think, who chose your future for you? Did you choose it, or are you influenced by everyone else? You don't have to do what other people do. I remember somebody's son had said, oh, this person did this in school, so I did it. So I said, if they jump off the cliff, would you join them?
Yeah.
We have stopped as a nation or a world of thinking for ourselves, even down to using a navigation system. Somebody said to me, I cannot believe that you know how to drive around central London in the way you know the roads. When I was in my early 20s, my dad used to always say to me, try and get lost across London and try and come home.
Yeah.
You have to be able to retain information in order to make educated decisions that work only for you.
I love that. As you're talking, I was thinking in terms of toxic positivity and how it shows up in our lives. What are some of the common phrases or activities that people do? I mean, you mentioned the one about the food that we eat, right? So, and I can think about that also in the way we spend our money. So, you go and you spend your money and you've got an excuse or a reason behind it, but you know that it's actually taking you maybe into minus, or now you're using the credit card instead. A lot of the time for me back in the day was when I was learning how to manage my money after moving from a cash economy into this complicated system.
It is complicated.
Where, when I moved here, I thought a loan and credit was free money, because that's what some people were saying it was. And maybe that's the toxic positivity showing up right there.
You can go and buy yourself a car. Yeah. And don't worry, you just have to use this little plastic thing.
Exactly. And just pay the minimum, right? Gosh, what a wonderful formula. But actually, just by paying that minimum, you're getting yourself into a lot more debt, because there's that interest that's being added on, which no one really knows how it's calculated, right? It's for me to actually work it out, I need to sit down and take some time to calculate that. So the average person doesn't understand how it's calculated. But back to my story. So I'm saying to myself, right, I've got a loan or an overdraft. Because I'm working, I know money's coming in every month. So it will get paid off. It will get paid off. And after a while, when you kind of wake up from that slumber, it's like, oh gosh, there's a problem here. The hole is much bigger. And now all that positive talk, or those the reasons
is now depression.
I'm telling you,
it's fear, it's trauma, it's financial trauma. So when you're the one, when you came on my show, right? And honestly, I was so inspired by your story when I listened, and we want to give a shout out to Jackie Stewart.
Yes, Jackie.
That's how we came together.
Indeed.
And I was so inspired because I was interviewing her for my show, so I want to listen to some of her shows. And you were the one interview that captured me. I loved your story. I just want to do for 3 weeks, just secretary for 3 weeks. And I started to see numbers and I wanted to learn. I just thought I love her innocence, because your purity is sometimes one of the symptoms of toxic positivity is your innocence. Your innocence invites stupidity. It's true. not you per se.
No,
right?
I know.
But if we think about it, and I always say, and I said this on one of my episodes on YouTube about what to do in your 20s, what to do in your 30s, and what to do in your 40s.
Yeah.
Now, in your 20s, to me, be dumb. You're going to make the wrong friends. You're going to, unfortunately, do some illegal nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to date a lot of the wrong people. In your 30s, you haven't got time. You need to solidify what your future you would like that to look like. But unfortunately, a lot of people in their 30s are still playing the fool. And the thing is that why I'm saying our innocence creates or leads to our stupidity is because, and this is where the toxicity comes in, we are living in hope. Now, as much as people say keep hope alive, hope is another dangerous tool.
Okay, so that's one phrase that we
we need to
keep hope alive.
We need to
learn how to use it in the right way,
in the right context.
Yeah.
So another phrase that I've actually started to distance myself from: success loves speed.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Yes.
This is a dangerous phrase, man. Because people will say, yeah, but if you just join my course and just go and get a credit card or a loan, imagine that you don't get what you want from that course. It doesn't yield you the results, and success loves speed into debt.
Yeah.
This is something that I even phoned a coach that I really want to work with. He's got a certain price point that I'm just not willing to get into debt for. Now, then this is what I'm saying about our naivety. We're thinking of the now. We're not thinking of tomorrow. So when people are sitting there, I don't mind having debt personally, because when you buy a house, it's debt.
Yeah.
So you're in trouble for the rest of your life. You're in headache for the rest of your life. So I choose how I want to spend my money, and you are the one that reignited. Even I have quite a few pensions, and you reignited a lot of payments for me. Mm-hmm. You said on my show, you need to tell money where to go.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
I never forget key things people say. But also, I've been in debt, so I know the pressure and the trauma and the headache it created for me, and the stress. So now, debt is not bad. It's how you manage it.
100%. And it's so interesting you've brought that up, because the way people get into debt is so easy. It's more difficult to come out of it. But what you learn going through that is it sets you up for managing your debt, going
for the rest of
forward.
your life. Yeah.
I mean, now like you, I have debt. I'm literally like juggling it like this, and I'm trying not to say it's fun, but it's not fun, but I'm able to manage it, and I'm confident about it. And whenever I either apply for a credit card or a loan, or if I'm going to use a credit card
facility,
credit facility, I'm very clear about why it's being used, how it's going to be paid off, and it will be paid off quickly. I'm not even, they say pay the minimum. I go in and I change that direct debit. Sometimes even triple, because it's a planned purchase.
Yes.
And I'm just using it to manage my cash flow.
I took out 10 grand 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I just paid it off just now, right? And I said to myself, I just need some respite.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, to do something, and then I can just clear it. And the thing that I noticed, I was paying the interest. I wasn't even paying the loan. So even they got their 10 grand and another £600 on top.
Yeah.
So you need to think about, and also when you have debt, if you take a loan, for example, with a credit card, if you can't afford to pay it off, don't get a credit card. That's my first thing. Yeah. If you choose to get a loan, you need to know the longer you have it, the less likely that you're not going to pay the accrued interest.
Yeah.
So this is why toxic positivity is an important thing when it comes to money. Because you have to remember, taking advice from someone who's broke is not going to help you become successful. But the funny thing is, the broke ones have the best advice.
Yeah.
I remember a girl in Bahrain when I used to live there. She said to me one day, remember when I met her when we moved to Dubai. I was in the Middle East 7 years in total, but 2.5 years in Bahrain, and we worked together. And then she worked in Dubai, and we ended up working together again. And she says to me, remember when you told me to save at least 500 dirham? So that's like about 60, 70 pounds a month.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I often think about, I said, did you do it? She goes, no, but I often think about how much I would have had by now.
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, when I leave a company, I always take the pension with me and keep paying into it. It doesn't matter whether or not you're getting relief from the government. So the more I put in, the more excited I get about, you're getting 200, 300 pounds extra for free. When they're taking it out of your salary, you're putting it back into your money. You have to think strategically.
Yeah.
You have to think strategically, but people are not thinking about, okay, if I earn this much, if you earn 80 grand, you essentially get 50,000 because you're going to be taxed 30 grand. So this is how I look at money, is that how much am I going to be taxed and how much tax do I want to take back through putting it in various pensions? So I have various pensions and I pay it in and I will make about 600-700 a month just from the government.
Yeah, that's really an important point there, that there's so much emphasis on getting things now, spending the money now, and no one's really thinking about their future self, as I call it, thinking about those long-term goals that they have. How are they going to fund them? A lot of people talk about wanting to go on holiday in retirement, or, 5 holidays a year, or maybe start up a business. But how are you going to do it if you're not building the foundation, the financial foundation for that period in time? And sometimes you do need to be selfish, think about yourself, quieten down the noise, on Instagram, on Facebook, on everywhere, and, even the people around you, and ask yourself, what do you need for yourself? And this is where I remember you, when we were talking about this topic, and you said, sometimes you have to be the bearer of good and bad news to yourself. And I thought, wow, that is so true. We really have to have that filter where we can say, this is not for me. This is not for me right now. This will never be for me. And actually, this is what I want. And this is the plan that I'm going to put in place to get there.
When I say the bearer of bad news, unfortunately, our parents give us toxic positivity. When they tell you, no, you're doing well, but you actually are doing some stupid stuff.
Which parents? Not African parents.
Well, some parents will be encouraging you to do foolishness. And the thing is, they think that it's good because they didn't have the opportunity.
Okay.
Some parents are living precariously through their children, encouraging them to do things that they are not aligned to do. That's not their destiny. And so you're wondering why they're unhappy, they're failing at other things. So this is why when I'm talking about toxic positivity, it's not just about the things that we're doing. Unfortunately, not all our parents are telling us things that are benefiting us. And the thing that we need to start doing is providing context. Because if someone tells me to do something, I'm a Virgo, so you play me up, you play yourself, right? I don't do games. I like you to be a straight shooter. I'm not interested in pretending and lying to myself. So if I realize, actually, Tsitsi doesn't like me, it will pain me, but I have to accept you ain't feeling me as a person. And I have to, as I normally say, exit stage left. Although it will pain me, I will get over it. We like to lie to ourselves, be with people that don't value who we are. And we will spend money to impress people that don't even like us. When I hear about, I'm going to buy this car, I'll keep that car that I purchased in 2018 until literally the wheel falls off on the A406. I don't need to keep replacing things to impress people that I don't need to talk to. Because is it in line with my values and beliefs? Or is it in line with their values and beliefs? This is why I say, who's choosing your future? We spend too much time and we don't have time. That's the thing that I want people to take into consideration. It doesn't matter now your age. You hear someone who's 18, they got cancer by 20, they're dead. You hear someone who's 40, they found out 2 weeks ago, they're dead. Somebody had told me about 2 years ago, oh, my sister's friend, beautiful girl, has a son at university, went to the gym, just had a heart attack, dead. 40. So to me, you need to get real with yourself before things end up being more challenging than they need to be. If you need to move and live with your family, if they're not a nightmare, go back. You're not here to impress people. If you're in Africa, you live with your parents till you die or they die. Because you have a compound, you have space. You probably don't even see your parent for 2 days because you're doing your own thing in the east wing of the compound. The mentality we have in the West, it does create a lot of mental health challenges, which is part of the toxic positivity realm. And we tend to justify it by saying we need to do this or look like this or be like this or be at this club or go to this country or to wear this blah, blah, blah. I just think that if we just take time and be still, me, if I don't have my phone on me, I'm okay. Like I'm not having a mental breakdown. I'm thinking no one's going to bother me. If they call me, I don't call them. They just have to wait. Yeah.
I'm one of those people. My phone, actually, it was 2015 when I had an eye operation, had a cornea transplant operation, and I put my phone on silent, and I've never taken it off silence.
When was this? 2015?
Yes. It was the best decision. So I don't know what the ringtone is. If I turn on my phone and it rang, I wouldn't know that it's my phone ringing.
We need to be at peace.
But it's sometimes those small things that give you that time to just think and just be still or just take a breath. Having my phone on silent is absolutely the best thing. And so in my household, the most common phrase that comes out of my mouth is, "Where's my phone?"
Because you can't hear it. You can't feel it.
And people are like, "Let me call it." I'm like, it doesn't vibrate. I don't even know.
Hold on. Is it even a phone from the 20th century?
It is. It's an iPhone 14.
I met somebody last year. She had an iPhone 4. We all looked, even I looked at her sideways.
It's still working.
We all were like, yeah, Veronica, you need to come up to scratch. Like, we need to do something. We're all earning a lot of money. We need to sort this out.
Yeah.
Like, this is unacceptable for a grown woman. iPhone 4. So this is my peer pressure on other people.
Yeah.
But I remember I had my phone off for 24 hours. My brother actually thought I had died or something. He kept me, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Can you just leave me alone?" Like, I don't think people understand the power of solace of being in your own space. And the thing is, right, you have to be unapologetic in your selfishness. Don't apologize for spending time on your own. Don't, like me, I'm a greedy person, right? So this is why the gym is very important. I just told you I recently started boxing.
Yes.
Because honestly, I think Dr. Nazardin on My 600 Pound Life will see me quicker if I don't go to if I was not going to the gym and I'm there following the Instagram followers.
Yeah.
On what, the foodie fella of, this spot is really amazing. That's how his voice is, right? Very sexy. If I'm following him, I'll have a heart attack. And I think it's really important to really understand who you are in your own process of growth. Have you ever had a friend that is constantly in a relationship?
I know lots of people.
They're scared of seeing themselves, the nakedness of who they are.
You remind me of someone. I remember saying something similar to them that, this person wants to be in a relationship with you because they cannot be on their own. And they had come out of,
toxic positivity. I got a man. I got a man. And that's when I feel sad for a lot of, I think, Leslie Jones, the actress said it, and I said this to you guys when we were setting up. They need to create an app called What's Left or What the Hell, one of the two, because they need to put them all together, because it's people that want to play games and also don't know who they are, a majority. And then when you sometimes watch or look at Instagram, there's men saying, you know where all the good women are? They're in their beds at home by 6 p.m. He ain't joking. Do you know how much joy I get from eating ice cream at home, chilling and watching Sisters or watching Next Level Chef with Gordon Ramsay? I get so much pleasure because there is peace in it. I don't need to be filled. And I would encourage people, think about how you fill your day. How much does it consist in 24 hours of other people's opinions and influences? And how much of it is yours? Because I keep saying, I've asked people this when I'm coaching them. Who is creating your life? How you dress, how you look, how you behave, how you shop. When I travel, I like footwear. When I was younger, right? Not that my parents were broke, but they were Ghanaian, yeah. So my dad did a lot of alcohol, like he liked drinking. My dad was, well, he probably would shoot me for saying this, but he was probably a functioning alcoholic, but we had the time of our life with my dad. My dad's still with us, but he is one of the funniest and coolest people in my life. He's somebody I completely admire. My dad has never been somebody ever. He doesn't change who he is. He's always himself. And I remember going to secondary school in the UK. You have to visit secondary schools to just check that you want to go there, they like you, etc. And I remember I had a big split in my shoe. And I said, Dad, I got a split in my shoe. You know, he said to me, are they going to check your shoe? Or are they going to check if you're ready for school? I said to myself, hey, Kwesi, that's what I call my dad. You know, we have a laugh. Me and my dad, we are friends. So I sometimes call him Mr. Addae. I call him Kwesi. I'm like, Dad. I say Wafa, it means uncle. I talk to him as if we're just hanging out on
friends.
the beach. Yeah. And it made me really check myself about what was important. And sometimes, yes, I do look like a house girl when I'm going Tesco's. I'm not even going to front. You know, but what's important is that I need to get food to eat.
Yeah.
At one point I was thinking maybe I'll meet, I don't know, 50 Cent in supermarket. Now I'm down the road from where he's going to be playing in June. So, you know, he might just be in Tesco's. However, when you love who you are going to love yourself in your good times and your bad times. And that's why I think it's important to recognize who you are, because some people can't handle you when you're in your winning season.
Oh.
And some people can't handle you when you're in your losing season. And that's the reason when I say who's creating your future, because if you're in your winning season and people are trying to shut you down, you're not going to win, because that's their destiny for you, not your destiny for you. That's why I keep saying, look at who's creating your future. Because people will always keep you at the level that they are willing to work towards.
And how do you recognize that? Because it's very difficult. If I think about the things that I'm trying to do and achieve and build, a lot of the time I'm hungry for support from family and friends, you know, especially the people who you're close to. And you're
the reason I'm picking my nail because I'm just like, I can't wait to respond.
You know, but at the same time, it's really hard. I find that I get the most support, the most encouragement from strangers, from people like you. I mean, I feel like you're a friend, but we don't really know each other that well in terms of our lives, etc. But I get so much support from people like yourself. You know, we mentioned Jackie earlier on, and family and friends. I'm like, where are you?
Let me just break something down to you. All family and friends are there is to love you. That's it. What it is that we place expectations on people that can't give us what we need. When we do that, it creates a pressurized environment because you're frustrated they're not giving you what you want. They're giving you what you need. Big difference. I don't share a lot of stuff with my family until it's done. I surround myself with very wealthy people. I probably am the brokest person in the group I'm in. Someone just messaged me right this morning that they're doing a round table at a broadcasting centre in London. And I said, I'm interested. She said, yeah, but that you need to be making $250,000.
Wow. Yeah.
I said, okay, just count me out this one, but think of me in the future.
Yes.
So this is the thing, is that I may be making $250,000, but it doesn't mean that I'm ready for that next stage, but I still surround myself with that person. Because that group that those group of people, they're forcing me to level up in myself, making me think I need to start getting situated. I need to start moving with the right people. I need to start being inspired differently. Not be inspired about, oh, did you go to the Naomi Campbell exhibition at the V&A? That's a great to do. That's not going to change my trajectory of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are with people around us, I think that we set ourselves up to fail when they don't think about our future the way we think about our future. And sometimes some people don't want to see you do well because it will shine a light on what they're not doing.
That is so true.
And
that is so true.
And you know what? Sometimes I do get frustrated. Like sometimes I got dope articles on LinkedIn. I got dope art. I think that my podcast is cool. I enjoy doing my podcast. I like it. I think it's fun. I'm giving people that are like me, irrespective of your race, but people that have their own brain power, the opportunity to engage in a different way and not be listen. I've got 2 masters. I've got MBA and MA in executive coaching. I'm not talking to you because I'm just literally read something on psychology.com today, and then I'm coming to relay it to you to make you feel comfortable. I don't want you to like me because it's what everyone else is doing. I want you to like me because I'm speaking to your heart. And that's why toxic positivity is everyone's going to like somebody because you like them. I have to like them. I've had people message me and say, people are saying that you're so real. I said, but this is the thing, when you're anyway, our next podcast on authenticity, but when you're real and you're real with yourself, I said, you got to offer yourself good and bad news. When you are real, you can't bring everyone with you because they're not going to be able to take your realness. And being real doesn't mean being unkind. And I think this is, again, toxic positivity. I'm going to be real, yeah. I'm going to tell you, and you're just thinking, what? Are you all right? Because I had to deliver some information to someone today, and I said to them, I was on a meeting, I said, listen, I want you to tell me what's really going on with the team. And she said, there's a lot of negative talk. I said, okay. I said, it's okay. I said, that is a subsequent reaction to the fact that you're not feeling as valued or communicated to. She said, one thing, talking to you, give us context. I said, but this is where as humans, we're too busy focused on things that are not important. So we don't even, this is why I say, who's creating your life? You don't even know the content or context of why you are doing X. You're just doing it because you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just copying you. I'm doing a podcast because you're doing a podcast.
Yeah. Why are you doing it? What is the end result? Or even, why do you think of things in a certain way? Is it really based on your experience or what you think? Or are you just following what other people have been saying?
And it drives me crazy. So sometimes people say, I haven't seen you for months. I'm thinking because I can only talk to people that understand what I'm saying. And when people misunderstand my personality, I'm okay with it. Because if you don't take time to actually understand who I am, I'm not here to justify my actions to you. I remember when I used to work in TV and I used to literally, there's another black girl in the office, but it was only 2 of us, but she was very timid and placid and didn't really want to speak up. And one day I just said, listen, I don't know what's going on in this company, right? But you don't talk to her, you don't talk to that. And I said, I'm having to find this out because I need to do certain things and then people are not giving me information because they don't like each other. Toxic work environment. Somebody had thrown a sandwich in the bin, someone said they're hungry, they gave it to the person, they didn't know it was in the bin. I said, how old are we? So I said, And that's the people say, when did you become like this? I've been like this my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't do the games. I don't do the emotional sabotage, self-sabotage. I don't do emotional manipulation.
It's almost as if being real, being yourself has been taken over by this other way of being because of all this, I guess, toxic positivity that is out there from, the media, from traditional media, social media. It's feeding into our lives. It's feeding into our language. It's feeding into our behavior. So we don't really recognize the real, authentic behavior or thoughts, or we don't appreciate some of the goals that we have for ourselves because we're second guessing, since the world is saying, actually,
that's not who you are.
If you're a woman in your late 40s, this is where you should be. This is what you should be doing. This is how you should look. And
let me tell you something. Me, I like watching The Real Housewives. That's my go-to of joy. But my favorite is The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because they fight with their lawyers. Okay, if you do something, it's a cease and desist. It's not going to rip your extensions out.
Yeah.
But one thing I observe is I love Erica Jane. I don't care what anyone says about her marriage to Tom Girardi. I don't care what anyone says about what happened. He was the lawyer. If you remember Erin Brockovich,
yes,
he was the real lawyer on that those cases for toxic water in the US. This woman owns who she is, and she owns how her trauma then manifests itself in it. At one point, it was very, very vile to me how she would attack people. But I understood it, and it didn't stop me still liking her. I was just like, you're not showing yourself in a great light. But also, she's going through a lot of trauma and pain. So again, she's in her early 50s, I believe. And what I love about the housewives, doesn't matter their age. If you are 50, you have short batty riders. I'm like, I met somebody's mum. She was in her 80s. She was wearing short shorts. I don't wear short shorts. After I met her, I said, nah, man, I've got no excuse. You should never, ever buy into what people tell you should do or be or who to be. You need to buy into what feels good and right to you. If something feels good and it genuinely brings absolute internal joy, people will see your joy on the outside. Because you don't have to fake it. You don't, like, I remember I was sick in bed, right? I've got endometriosis. And somebody called me from work and he said, Sandra, is this what you look like when you're sick? He said, what are you doing? I said, nothing. I've had, when I have woken up, I've had even my sister-in-law, your skin, oh my God. Like, I'm like, just drink water. I sit there and I'm amazed that people are so amazed by certain things. But I'm like, I've used Dove wash since I've been 15. When I clean my skin, it's going to be very harsh chemical, but people might think I'm crazy. I use Dettol. I put it on a cotton pad and I wipe my face and it removes all the dirt. It stings. I'm not going to sit here, but that's one of my beauty things. And I don't wear makeup often. And if you do wear makeup, no offense, and don't come and sue anybody because no one ain't got money to pay you, but don't be buying the cheapest of the cheapest and then wondering why you've got lumps and bumps on your face. When you invest in yourself, you invest in positive self-image, positive language, positive reinforcement by the people around you. And then when you start realizing that toxic positivity exists, as soon as you hear it, you don't engage with it.
Yeah.
Because you see when you were talking about, why is it that friends and family don't? Because their job is to just love you. And the thing is, your job is to continue doing the work you do, and how you're recognized is how you're recognized. So, as I said, sometimes I'm like, why don't more people like my posts? I'm like, I shouldn't be boosting this. You should just like it automatically. But I know that there's work to be done.
Yeah.
So I don't rely on people I know. I have to think, okay, what's the new strategy? Who can I work with? I need a PR person. This is what you've got to start thinking about. If I don't have the money, how do I leverage money? What kind of work do I need to do to be able to gain that? Do I need to learn how to trade? You've got to think of different ways of streaming your income.
Yeah, well, how can I collaborate with
Other
others?
people.
That's a great way.
I did a YouTube live last weekend with a young girl talking about the mother wound, and she's a young Ghanaian girl, and I watched it and I was like, I know she's in her 20s, and the wisdom. I said to her, we need to collaborate. We need to do and we did. It took us like 3 months to get it done, but we finally did it. And she was like, I really enjoyed that. And people were sending notes and messages and questions. And I was thinking, my God, I'm not expecting to answer people's questions, because one of the things that I will say, this is why I say a lot of the podcasts are toxic positivity. You're answering questions and that's going to impact someone's life. Now, I say this on my show, coaches, therapists, all of the above, even podcasters, influencers. You have to be very careful who you give your life to. I'm not talking about Christ either. I'm talking about taking advice from somebody who doesn't actually understand the implications that advice is going to have on your life. That toxic positivity isn't something that you take for granted. Think about, and the thing is, I've heard people say to me, I knew it was the wrong person that I married at the altar. I knew this was the wrong person I shouldn't be dating. I knew this was the wrong job. Even I knew jobs that didn't work out for me, that it was the wrong place to be. But the thing is, the pressure of being in a job or having money or whatever is what draws us into, oh, I'm working. Oh, really? I'm earning this. Oh, wow. But you are miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable.
So what are just three things that we can all do to sharpen our radar when we're falling into the trap of toxic positivity, whether it's us being the ones who are influencing other people or, the other way around?
First thing, you've mentioned it already, and I do this now, even for myself. What do I need in this situation? That's the first question. Because if you don't need anything in that situation, don't do it. Okay, the second thing, this is going to be a bit tough for a lot of people, but you got to do a people audit. Why did you respond that way?
I'm just...
you got to look at the people in your workplace so your energy, right? And everything I do around my work is about energy in terms of coaching. And I will refuse to work with people I don't like. I don't like their energy. I'm not going to work with you just for money. But you need to look at when you leave a conversation with people, or even at the end of the day, diarize for a week, 2 weeks, how you feel with each interaction with each person you've had. Me, I like a list. So I always have columns: name, time of day you spoke to them, and the energy you were left with. And the reason I say this, and I've said this since, I don't know, the last 20 years, we are all going to die. Someone said this to me the other day and I actually nearly had a meltdown. She goes, in 100 years, no one's going to be here. And I was like, can you stop bringing reality into my life? Right? But how I look at life is this. We all have a certain amount of energy for a lifetime. On a daily basis, how do you want to utilize it?
Oh, I love that. Gosh, yes.
How do you want to waste it, or do you want to uplift it? Because when my dad's 87, man don't have walking stick, he's not on medication, he's still feisty, he likes to have a laugh, 87. The one thing he'll complain about when he gets in the car and we're going to Costco, because I love Costco. Can you put the heating on? I'm like, you need to slow down before I get my inheritance early. So I say to him, you're lucky, I don't need my inheritance just yet, so you keep going. But this is the kind of jokes we have. But what I look at my dad and I think, what does he do to stay joy? He says to me, I'm always happy with myself. That's why your energy is important of how you leave people. And I always, even down to my acupuncturist, when we hug like we're family. Sometimes I say to him, have you warmed the bed up? Because he has a bed so I can do. I said to him, I'll never message you that because I don't want your partner to waste her energy thinking that you're heating up a bed for other situations. So our energy is important because it also then allows you to take time to understand how you interpret information. So the third thing is interpretation. Mm-hmm. If you want to understand the impact of toxic positivity, you need to think about how do you interpret information because it actually gives you a certain response. I don't get annoyed at a lot of things anymore. Yes, it's age. I'm not going to sit here and lie. But also, what is the consequence to me reacting in the way that I could react? So if I think to myself, who's giving me the energy, how I'm using the energy, but then it's called self-preservation. Because we only have a certain amount of energy per day, per year, and for the rest of our life, whatever year that ends.
Yeah.
So that to me is how do we stay alive, even in the midst of toxic positivity?
Yeah. I love those three tips, 3 steps. So important. And you're right. It all feeds back into the self, the individual, your body, your actual physical being. And that physical being is the thing that will help you create whatever it is that you have been put on this earth to create. So we need to definitely preserve that and protect it at all costs, I think.
You know, I another term that I don't like, protect your energy. What we at war? Protect, like, all I just say is choose how you spend it.
Yeah.
What are you protecting it for? That means that you're in a battle. Always think about the language that we're using. Life is not a battle unless you choose for it to be. And that's why when people keep saying, so it's what I'm saying, a lot of the things that the internet that we are taking from it is not healthy.
Yeah.
It's not healthy at all.
Yeah. When
people come to me and say, I've got mental health issues, I'm like, listen, you ain't got mental health issues, you're lazy. Because some people are lazy and they don't want to be accountable. So then they're using the terminology in order to release themselves from accountability.
And release themselves from the work that they have to do. Yeah. Oh gosh, Sandra, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. Honestly. There's not enough time. But
never is.
Never is. But obviously that is a good excuse for us to come back and have another chat. I would love to know from you, Sandra, what is the one wealth conversation that you would like people to have?
The wealth conversation I want people to have is, what does wealth mean to you? Because we have different ideologies of wealth. Some people think health is wealth. Some people think their bank balance is wealth. Mm-hmm. Some people think the amount of kids they have is wealth. Some people think all their friends are wealth. But my question is, what is wealth to you, and where can your wealth take you?
I love that. That's a fantastic question. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
No, it has been such a pleasure. Before we end, how can people get hold of you? Where can they find you? God. How can they become part of your circle?
Well, I would just firstly say, if you join my YouTube channel, that's the easiest start. So at DA Dirt Millennial Coach, and 2 L's, 2 N's if you can't spell. So I've had people, I say spell millennial, no one knows.
Yeah.
Or you can email me, Sandra at core-beginnings.com. I'm always open to conversations. I love training people, developing leaders, and just working with people that truly have the inspiration to change their lives and trajectory.
Fantastic. And I'll put all those details in the show notes. So if you want to get hold of Sandra, look at the show notes. The email address will be there and the link to her YouTube channel will be there.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sandra, for coming on to the Wealth Conversation podcast. Thank you for listening and watching the podcast. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us to get found easier and also, helps us to spread the word of the Wealth Conversation.